This presentation will discuss the Great Depression, motion pictures, friends and enemies, tariffs, court packing, Mexican repatriation, fireside chats, the 22nd Amendment, and the TVA. Motion pictures. So during the time of the Great Depression, the entertainment industry was one of the few industries that did not suffer during this economic downturn. For just 15 cents, a person could enjoy a motion picture, escape reality and their problems, and enjoy being taken into a fantasy world where they did not have to worry about life's problems. King Kong, The Wizard of Oz, Snow White, and Gone with the Wind would help Americans forget all about their problems. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff. This was a tariff that was passed during the Hoover administration in order to protect American products and businesses from foreign competition. A tariff is a tax on foreign goods coming into the country. The idea was that if foreign goods are more expensive and American goods are cheaper, then Americans will buy American goods, which will support American businesses and workers. Did it work? No. The tariff actually made consumer goods more expensive and deepened the economic depression. Roosevelt would remove the tariff during his administration. This is Huey Long. He was a critic of FDR. And being a critic of the Roosevelt administration, he said that Roosevelt and his New Deal programs did not go far enough to help the American people. He proposed that all people should be given a house, a car, and a decent income. How would he pay for all this? A tax on the rich, of course. His ideas, as you can imagine, were very popular with the American people while he was running for president. Well, what happened to Huey Long and his share the wealth ideas? He was assassinated. This is Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt was the wife of Franklin Roosevelt. Eleanor was a strong-minded first lady that spoke her mind publicly on social issues. She advocated for Black and minority rights, and even President Roosevelt sought the advice of Black leaders and frequently invited them to the White House. This group became known as the Black Cabinet. While Eleanor's view angered some Americans, she would be one of the most respected and admired first ladies ever in the United States. FDR's court packing scheme. So while FDR passed much of his New Deal programs through Congress, he would hit a wall with the Supreme Court, which ruled that many of his programs were unconstitutional. In order to pass his programs, and out of frustration with the Supreme Court, FDR came up with the idea to pack the court. That is, to seat justices who agreed with his programs and who would not declare his programs unconstitutional. He would do this by adding new justices to the existing 9 justices already on the Supreme Court. But his plan was met with a lot of opposition from Congress and the American public as well, as it was believed that he would then have too much power in the executive branch and he would become more like a dictator rather than a president. Also, if he were to pack the court with the justices that he wanted, what would keep other presidents from doing the same thing? So his court packing plan did not succeed. During the time of the Great Depression, there was Mexican repatriation. So repatriation is the return of someone to their own country. Because of the severe economic downturn during the Great Depression, Americans were concerned about their jobs. Immigrants were seen as being a reason for job losses, so as a result, immigration was halted and many immigrants were sent back to their home countries. Many Mexican Americans were also sent back to Mexico, even though they were American citizens. Yes, I'll repeat that. Even though they were American citizens, they were sent back to Mexico. FDR's fireside chats. FDR's fireside chats were a way for FDR to communicate with the American public about his programs and how he felt the Great Depression was going and how he was going to deal with the Great Depression. This was the first time an American president would reach out to the American public by using radio. And now Americans could hear their president's voice. They could listen to him on the nights when he had his fireside chats, and it was a way to communicate and calm the American public's fears about what was going on during these economic hardships. The 22nd Amendment. So George Washington, he was the first U.S. president, only served 2 terms in office. And even though the Constitution during that time did not have term limits for president, Washington felt it was important to set a precedent for all other presidents that 2 terms should be the maximum amount of time, or 8 years, for a president to serve. So all presidents after Washington would follow his precedent. They would follow his example until FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The reason why Roosevelt served more than 2 terms was that he felt that the country was in so much trouble with the Great Depression and later on with World War II that it would not be right for him to step aside and have another president to serve in his place. So FDR would be the only president to be elected 4 terms in office. So soon after his presidency, the 22nd Amendment was passed to ensure that this would never happen again. And now all U.S. presidents are bound to 2 terms, or 8 total years in office. This is the TVA. The TVA stands for the Tennessee Valley Authority. And what it was an enormous public works project during the Roosevelt administration that put Americans to work and provided water and electricity to what was the poorest area of the United States. That was the Tennessee Valley area. Many of the people who lived in this part of the country did not have basic resources like running water or electricity. So with the building of dams, this part of the country would now be provided with running water and electricity and would lift many out of impoverished conditions.